All right, Sarah, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I do wear two hats. I'm going to be talking about prebiotics, trends, science, and innovation for gut and gut-brain health. My two hats are the Global Prebiotic Association, founded 5 years ago, for which I serve as the executive director, and Industry Transparency Center, for which I'm CEO. And many of the consumer research points and insights will be from the Industry Transparency Center. First of all, a little bit about GPA. We're an association comprised of prebiotic ingredient manufacturers, brand holders, retailers, platform, and service companies. We're focused on education and awareness of building about prebiotics. I will comment about the fact that 5 years ago, we saw this stewarded category of probiotics, interest in the microbiome, but no one was really paying special attention to prebiotics, and we felt that was a gap that needed to be filled. The GPA mission is to champion the category, increasing public awareness and understanding of the science for both well-known newfound benefits and needed transparency about prebiotics and their interaction within the microbiome. So there are several definitions that are out there in the marketplace for prebiotics. Very few of them have a regulatory standing. We have undertaken over the course of the last 5 years to come on a consensus of our own that is slightly different from what has been published and addressed in the mainstream peer review literature. We're in the process of doing that. Now, to us, a prebiotic is a product or ingredient that is utilized in the microbiota, producing either a health or a performance benefit. We've also gone one step further, and this is novel to the art. We have created a definition of prebiotic action or prebiotic effect. And that is a health or performance benefit, a little bit more mechanistic, that arises from alteration of the composition and or activity of the microbiota as a direct or indirect result of the utilization of a specific and well-defined product or ingredient by microorganism. What we were trying to get away from was fiber and prebiotics and that exclusive link, because that's not true. Also trying to expand upon a singular mechanisms of action, which was food for bugs. It's more than that, and we wanted to make sure that we had that addressed in prebiotic effect. The other aspect about prebiotic is traditional definitions call for a selectivity, so selectively utilized, and the current literature and bigger understanding of mechanisms of action shows that right now, many prebiotics are not selective at all. So some of the prebiotic types, and we diversify, we bifurcate this into the more commonly known prebiotics and then emerging prebiotics, some of which are showing increasing prebiotic activity as we understand new mechanisms and new testing and diagnostics technology. So select fibers, for instance, acacia. The most commonly and original source of prebiotic inulin, resistant starch, isomaltulose, fructooligosaccharides, human milk oligosaccharides, galacto-oligosaccharides, xylo-oligosaccharides. Those are traditionally the most commonly known. What we are learning, though, is selected polyphenols are prebiotic, bacteriophages, pectin oligosaccharides, yeast hydrolysis, omega-3s, lactulose, glucan. These are either prebiotics or show prebiotic effect. Now I'm going to move quickly into the trends and insights in prebiotic supplement consumers. This is research that was conducted over the late spring of this year, but starting off with a web search of prebiotic and microbiome related terms. So this is global over the course of the last 12 months. And you see that red line is probiotic. That's the dominant search term. But if you look below that, you see microbiome and prebiotic, both rising above that signal to noise, well ahead of terms like symbiotic and postbiotic. If you were to measure this from previous years, you'd notice a stark comparison. Interest in prebiotics is increasing, but there's also this thing, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, and that's a phenomenon that a healthy microbiome is a good thing to have. And that is underscoring interest, especially over the course of the last 3 years. Now we're going to look at our ITC consumer insights, supplement consumers around the world. I paired this back to really focus where possible on the US consumer set, anticipating that that would be the interest area of most of this audience. So again, this is just highlights of our ITC Insights deck. Okay, the survey was fielded in late spring. In total, it was 3,500 supplement consumers. 1,000 of those are in the US, 1,000 in China, 500 in the UK, 500 in Germany, 500 in Italy. These are all supplement users, and we've got some checks and balances to make sure that we've got authenticity in our data. Now, the way this survey lays out is that we've got a bunch of general questions for all the participants. So we get a good indexing on what they're using, what frequency, how familiar they are with all supplement categories. Then we're able to dial in and filter through prebiotic users. We've also got data on probiotic users, omega-3s, collagen, another category that we track, a curcumin. So we've got those filtered as well, but we've got this general ability to index any particular category against a specific ingredient. Okay, so the first part of this insights piece is going to be all supplement consumers and their beliefs, behaviors, attitudes, and concerns, and then a cross-country survey. Should note right ahead before we get into the data that we do filter this by country, obviously. We break it out by gender. We also break it out by 3 age groups. Our demographics are 18 to 34, 35 to 54, and over 55. We could do broader, but that's what we've done for the purposes of this survey. We also will get into an area where we call regular users and irregular users, and I'll tee that up in a few minutes. All right, so in this slide, we've got 3 countries compared here. We've got the US, the UK, and then Germany. And we've got 21 top health concerns at the top, 22 at the bottom. So you can see that, and the ones in blue are the interesting ones that are related to this anxiety, stress, probably could put insomnia and sleep there, lack of energy, those types of issues, which we've seen as health concerns dramatically increase over the course of the last 3 years. But let's walk through the specific data. Top health concerns, all supplement consumers, high blood pressure. Then we've got joint has moved from second to third in 21 to 22. Anxiety and stress has moved from third to second. Got high cholesterol there, and lack of energy as the top 5 in the United States. Anxiety and stress in the UK, then joint pain, then lack of energy. You got joint pain, very high number, over 30%, followed by insomnia in Germany in 21. The joint pain has moved down as other health concerns have emerged, but the health concern level in Germany seems to be understated compared to the US and the UK. Many concerns for which consumers took supplement for are connected to the microbiome or even prebiotic-related applications. Okay, so now we're taking a look at health concerns and what these consumers actually took supplements for. So we haven't gone into which category of supplements. What we're analyzing here is, okay, if it's microbiome related, it's a major opportunity. Plus, they're already taking supplements for. Another thing to note here is that this bar and index, where we had numbers in the 20s to the low 30s, here we're into generally between 10 and 20. So we've got issues and concerns in supplement consumers, but they're not taking supplements for them. So it's an unaddressed delta. It's an unaddressed opportunity. Okay, so there's that lagging. See, lack of energy is a top concern for what they're taking supplements for. Insomnia and sleep, sitting there at 17%. You do have digestive complaints, much more traditionally associated with microbiome-related categories, including prebiotics, sitting at 15%. Then you've got anxiety and stress. Then you've got immunity concern, which would be the next traditionally associated. You've got mood, depression, lack of mental acuity, memory issues, other things that are related to that gut, brain, sleep, stress aspect, for which you're seeing microbiome-related categories have emerging interest in a consumer set. Okay, now we're going to get into some familiarity detail, and we're going to use as a benchmark probiotics. Probiotics is arguably maturing, certainly has grown, high-level growth over the course of the last 10 years, What can we learn about probiotics? What can we learn about other categories? And what's going to shock us when we consider all the supplement ingredient sets? All right, so a lot of information here. And the way to organize thinking on this is starting at the right-hand side. The second column from the right is all familiarity. So that's any familiarity at all. Okay, you see calcium, vitamin D, multivitamins, what we consider as ubiquitous. Every consumer should know something about this, sitting there between the mid to high 90s. So not at 100%, even among supplement users, incidentally, or interestingly. Then you see probiotics has moved to 93 with basically a unfamiliar, never heard of it at 7%. Okay, then we track down to prebiotics, which makes the top 10, sits there at 85% all familiarity. Okay, so that's the first piece of information we have from this slide. Now we move to the left-hand column, and the left one is extremely familiar and consumer recommend, followed by extremely familiar. So if we say extremely familiar and up, okay, seems like a good grouping. You see that calcium, vitamin D, well, multivitamins actually is top at 45. Probiotics sits there at 31. So you got 41, 42, 45, and a drop off into the 30s. You've got prebiotics, a long way to go, sitting there at extremely familiar, what we call top 2 at 22%. So what does this tell us? Even with our most ubiquitous categories, the ones that consumers seem to be, that's our entry point into our supplement marketplace, those extremely familiar and up are only sitting in the low 40s. Folks, we've got work to do. Got to get out of our echo chambers. We've got to be educating. Now, I take a look at this and I say probiotics, cracking that top 4 or 5 into the 30s at extreme familiarity. That's our target for prebiotics. I think we're on track, but we've got some work to do. But we've also got a 10-year lag point, and we haven't had what I call our Jamie Lee Curtis moment. Okay, now we're getting into usage level by supplement ingredient. Another one that I'd like to get on my soapbox and talk about. So let's start by the left column. Those are users in total. You see the more ubiquitous, multivitamins, vitamin D, calcium, 85, 84, 79. Probiotics running fourth there, 74%. Prebiotics sitting there at 60% of the folks in our survey are users at some level of prebiotics. Okay, that's great. That's only part of the story. Then the corollary of the users is the right-hand column, which is never used. Now, we at ITC consider a regular user of a supplement to be one that consumes a particular supplement more than 4 times per week. So 4 to 6 times per week, daily, multi-daily. I mean, those are our regular users. And then irregular users are 1 to 3 times per week, seasonally and as needed. Okay, so pieces of information here. We consider our poster children for the supplement universe to be multivitamins and vitamin D. But if you take a look, 38 and 36% of them are taking it more than 4 to 6 times per week, and therefore are regular users. That's a problem. It's also an opportunity. Creating this migration path from irregular users to regular users is the key to success, consumption, lifetime value of sales, but also the experience and the benefits of taking supplements, especially those that are microbiome related, that are most often taken seasonally or as needed due to, an acute digestive stress or disorder. That's when people remember to take them because they've got an acute problem, but they're not going to get the long-term benefits. So again, it's a challenge, it's an opportunity. Okay, so regular users of probiotics, 25%, with another 44% that are irregular. Okay, and then we move down to prebiotics. We've got 17% that are regular users, 38% that are irregular, and that's challenge. That's our opportunity. That's our easiest conversion set. How do we take these irregular users into regular users? And that 38% is actually one of the highest levels. That 23% is actually the highest of any of these supplement ingredient categories. Probiotics at 27%. So the microbiome related actually run 1 and 2 here. Okay, Now we're going to start filtering into prebiotic users specifically. Now, in any of these slides, and the deck will be available, at any of these slides, the N, the number of people that are represented by the data, is at the bottom of the page, as is the question that was asked of the survey respondents. Okay, so prebiotic users specifically, it's always interesting to see and challenge our perceptions of gender demographics. So in the prebiotic category, generally skewing male, does in the US, does in the UK, does even more so in Germany, female in Italy, and female in China across our 5-country survey. You can also see that we've got the numbers, the N's, and we're sitting there at about 1,500 prebiotics all told if we include the 5 countries. Now, paralleling to what I presented at the outset, now we're talking the health concerns of prebiotic users, but we've also narrowed this down to the United States. Okay, so the top health concerns of prebiotic users, incidentally, and probably not surprisingly, dovetail into that anxiety, stress, lack of energy, depression, mood, insomnia, sleep. Okay, that is 5 to 6 of the top 8. Okay, we've actually got joint pain, we've got high blood pressure, got high cholesterol. They're major concerns that we would typically associate with microbiome-related products. Digestive and immunity are center of the pack there, sitting at between 12 to 15%. Now we've got this corollary with the beginning of the presentation. These are the prebiotic users' health concerns, what they did take supplements for, okay? They over-index in taking supplements for lack of energy. They are equal in insomnia and sleep problems. You do see them taking supplements for digestive complaints. You do see immunity concerns here at 14%. So a couple things to take away here. Prebiotic users are taking supplements for lack of energy and insomnia. Does that give you any ideas from a formulation standpoint? They're taking supplements already for anxiety or stress, for mood, for aging. There's white space opportunities, product development opportunities here. And then the more traditional we'd expect for digestion and immunity. That's already where they are taking supplements. Hit them where they are, not where they ain't. Now we're going to look at prebiotic familiarity and usage patterns. Okay, so this is sort of a dial in on the data I showed previously about the users of prebiotics. Regular users, as we now know, are those that do take a particular supplement more than 4 times a week. Irregular users are those that are less. We also have this category and bucket in another supplement. Often in this category, it's symbiotics. It's going to be a probiotic and prebiotic combination. Okay, so the breakout of prebiotic users, 16% are daily, 14% are 4 to 6 times per week. Okay, that's sort of stacking up against that earlier chart. Irregular users, here's the opportunity. 24% are 1 to 3 times per week, 39% are seasonally and as needed. That's the target. Let's get them on a more regular basis. Okay, the level of familiarity is the next measure, and this is familiarity of prebiotic users with prebiotics. Okay, you'd think that this would almost be a 100% chart, and it is not. So first column there, extremely familiar, and I actively consume and or recommend the supplement. Regular prebiotic users, strong correlation with extreme familiarity. That's sitting at about 48%. You still got regular users with moderate, only very familiar. Irregular users really leaning towards that very or moderately familiar. What's the ticket to convert these irregular users to regular users? Part of it is in this slide, converting on that familiarity chart. Prebiotic usage change very quickly, a lot of information here, but there's a left to right, 21 to 22 across 3 countries. There's also a top to bottom, and we like to measure consumers taking more versus consumers taking less as an index. How are we doing within the marketplace? So US, More consumers are taking prebiotics more. Same in the UK, same in Germany. That's a good sign. Taking prebiotics less, though, unfortunately, is rising in all three countries. That's not a good sign. And the delta, so 37% minus 25%, is a solid 12% to the good in the United States. It's 9% to the good in the UK. It's 3% to the negative in Germany, but that compares to 7% to the negative in Germany from a year ago. Why are consumers taking prebiotics? What's the benefit area that they're looking for? Okay, US only. The N on this is 532. Okay, our consumers are currently taking prebiotics mostly for immunity, followed by gut health and digestion. But then look at the diversity of health benefit areas sitting between 15 to 20%. Okay, regularity associated with gut health and digestion. Microbiome health is something I'd like to call out. There's this aura and awareness of consumers about having a healthy microbiome allows you to do many things better, including coping, including staying healthful. So that microbiome health as a benefit area, we've watched increase in the US, in the UK, and in Italy. Okay, another one I'd like to call out here is to complement the probiotic I take. That's sitting there in the middle of the pack at about 17%. Okay, but the diversity of benefit areas associated with prebiotic usage is increasing. We've watched this over the 5 years that we've been doing this survey, including athletic performance. It's one of the things that led GPA to expand its definition of prebiotics to include a performance benefit, because in some jurisdictions around the world, athletic performance is not necessarily considered a direct health benefit. Okay, the last one on there is in a symbiotic formula. Well, that's really to complement the probiotic I take. So if you sort of add those, it's going to be a little bit of an intersection, but that's going to pop up to be the third or fourth most sought after benefit area in total. First time question, trying to get an understanding of usage time of day. When I first got into sort of the health ingredients, functional ingredients area, there was this, well, let's get our functional ingredients into snacking times. That's why this question is so interesting. So what we found here is a couple of things. So first of all, regular prebiotics have behaviors that are different from irregular users. Okay, their dominant response is when I wake up near breakfast, so early times of day. Notice the right two columns. It's not with a snack. So prebiotic users, and these are supplement users, understood, in order to do this truly, and we have done research on functional food and beverage consumers, but at least with supplements, it's not associated with a snack. And in prebiotics, it's early day. Now we're going to look at format characteristics and why they buy. What's their purchase decision based on? Okay, this is about delivery format. And here I've got a breakdown by age. Again, these are supplement consumers. And the way to sort of understand these charts is to look what over indexes and what under indexes. As one probably would expect, the older consumers, especially those 55 plus, are looking for traditional formats, capsules followed by pills. The younger consumers, though, are looking for powders and gummies. We have some non-traditional supplement formats like beverages and snacks. We've also got soft gels there and other non-pill formats. But basically, there's strong, depending on how your demographic targets work, you need to, again, reach them where they are. And younger consumers, who are the most eligible consumers for lifetime value, are preferring powders and gummies specifically in this category. Okay, other values and attributes that determine selection criteria. So the question was generally asked, what are the most important attributes you look for when purchasing supplements? But these are prebiotic users. So that's the way to interpret this response. So generally, they're looking for a recommendation by a doctor or health expert, then a natural source, then they're looking for detailed ingredient information, then for clinical research. You see organic certification. So they're asked this in a general sense, but then we filtered to these are just the prebiotic users. And in this case, these are only the US prebiotic users. What do they look for on the label? When we started our Global Prebiotic Association, we were told that, well, really, this is just a fiber story. The data shows us otherwise. Now, some consumers, and actually the highest response here, are those that are looking for the fact that it's labeled as a prebiotic. Next up in response is looking for a probiotic-prebiotic combination, followed by specific activity or action on the gut microbiota. Then we're looking at values-based sealed or certification. So here, they're asked specifically on a prebiotic label, what are you looking for? So it's very focused. Fiber comes out number 5. Other specific prebiotics. What we've also noticed over time is that there's discernment in the types of prebiotics. So looking for resistant starch, looking for FOS, looking for GOS, looking for ZOS, looking for resistant starch. Then symbiotic is there at 14%. So again, probiotic-prebiotic combination, symbiotic, somewhat additive, which would bump it up in response set. Inulin is looked for by only 9% of prebiotic consumers. Always of interest, especially to us at ITC, is the importance of branded ingredients, and also what are consumers willing to pay more for, and what do they associate as an attribute of branded ingredients. Okay, these are the attributes of branded ingredients for which consumers have said that they're willing to pay more than 10% premium. So we start here with general consumers, but then it's filtered to prebiotic users against this data set. And we see an index here, prebiotics versus all supplement users. So prebiotic consumers, the takeaway here, are willing to pay a greater than 10% premium for any of these attributes at a broader level or higher level than all supplement users. Importance of branded ingredients another way. So far left, always looking for branded ingredients, and I'm willing to pay a premium. We've got US prebiotic users, all prebiotic users, all supplement users. You can see that US prebiotic users are willing to pay for branded ingredients. Is sustainability important? We hear a lot about it, but is it really important at the consumer level? And how does that trace back to specific ingredients? So question is, when deciding what ingredients to purchase, to what degree does sustainability and the environmental impact of an ingredient influence your purchase behavior? Here we measure prebiotic users, regular and irregular, against all supplement users. The takeaway is sustainability over indexes to prebiotic users, especially regular prebiotic users. That message about the ingredient sustainability and environmental impact is hugely important. All right, going to shift gears a little bit. I was asked to put this in a broader context and sort of a lens and crystal ball on examining and analyzing what's happening in the industry at macro and some micro levels. What do I get excited about? What are my cautionary points? And then I'm going to dial that into some of the takeaways from our ITC survey data. Okay, random, recent prebiotic science, which has a little bit of broad context. So lemon pectins modulate structure and function of the gut microbiota. Just found out this article 2 weeks ago. So not a traditional prebiotic. It's specific to lemon, and it's about pectin oligosaccharides. So a couple different things are interesting about that. Okay, the next one is an updated review on prebiotics, insights on potentials, food seed waste as a source of potential prebiotics. Ties to that sustainability coefficient, the upcycled movements, and the fact that there's an association with many sources of prebiotic as food source, therefore potential food waste source, or a story about how to mitigate food waste. There's all sorts of angles that are going to resonate with consumers. Fueling gut microbes, a view of the interaction between diet, exercise, and the gut microbiota in athletes. Okay, this is a year old, but it talks about that performance benefit and the association of the microbiome with a diversity of health benefits, including performance. The next one, also a year old, and this field is moving fast. I mean, I could have filled pages and pages of this for a variety of reasons. Research shows that consuming prebiotic supplements once a day, okay, so that's at regular use, positive impact on anxiety. non-traditional health benefit of prebiotics, dovetails in with that stress, anxiety, mental wellness. And the last one there is a microbiome targeting fiber-enriched nutritional formula, well-tolerated, improves quality of life, A1C, diabetes, double-blind, randomized placebo-controlled trial. Okay, A1C, blood sugar management, not traditionally associated with microbiome. We're getting beyond traditional microbiome science. Also should note that this is a study that was commissioned by a brand, a finished product company. Okay, so the investments in science are straddling many aspects in a very, very good way in our industry. All right, so about comments about some trends, the macro environment. We are in a very, very challenging supply chain. Fragility in the supply chain has been an issue. We are having some recessionary pressures. We have inflationary pressures. We've got some challenges. So what does this mean? For the long term, I think that we're in a very stable industry. We used to call this industry recession-proof. I think that what we're seeing right now is a little bit more than recession because of the fragility in supply chain, because of the inflationary pressures. The inflationary pressures are causing consumers to say, well, what do I really need to spend on? We've also got this post-COVID environment. I think what we can learn from 2008 is that relatively, the dietary supplement industry, especially in the United States, and I was doing Nutrition Business Journal presentations internationally in 2008, 2009, and I say, yeah, the good news is, or the bad news is, our growth stalled, and it wasn't at the growth levels of previous years. It dropped to 7.8. Compare that to global CPG and US CPG at 1 to 2%, we were doing pretty well. I think that difference is closed, but I think this supplement industry will outperform. Now, the lesson is we got to get to regularity. We've also got to get to experientiality, where consumers can experience the difference. And our microbiome targeted products can be experiential, but we need that long-term, not just acute usage. So there's a couple lessons that we need to learn from this. Immunity and beyond. Immunity was a wave through the past 3 years. Immunity is still of interest and import, but it's overall wellness, and immunity is a contribution to my being able to cope, able to survive, able to thrive, and now it's about overall healthfulness. New lifestyles and generations. Younger consumers have different value sets than our traditional consumers. It's exasperating for me to hear supplement companies, ingredient companies talk about a baby boomer target audience. Yeah, that may be the traditional audience. If you ignore the younger generations, our demographics that we've researched in our ITC data, it's at your peril. I think that there's new opportunities, new things they're looking for. I'm intrigued by the gender set of prebiotic consumers. It's amazing how many times I've heard that, yeah, I'm going to go for baby boomer females. After that, maybe 35 to 45-year-old females. I mean, there's definitely a target market. There's specifics, there's value propositions there, but it's broader than that. There needs to be an addressable audience and higher lifetime value on 18 to 34, specifically 25 to 34s, but don't ignore the males, especially in microbiome targeted applications. Okay, so that covers my demographic check too. Okay, fads, trends in the long term. Fads are great for the short proposition. Trends are what you want to pay attention to, especially trends that transcends, so that they can morph into a long-term sustainable value. We'll move on to the next slide because I think that's actually going to give us some more topics to cover. When it comes to categories that I'm truly excited about, and you talked about, or we discussed a little bit about the categories of interest or the health concerns of interest to the consumers in our population set: stress, mental wellness, nootropics, adaptogenics. I also made reference to experiential, or those things that can be measured. In our microbiome targeted categories, we are now having new tools available to measure, and we know that long-term compliance will lead to more experiential results. So this is really, really important. The omega-3 vitamin D category actually rates high on our scales for people who have experienced the benefits. Well, are they really going to experience the benefit of vitamin D? Or is it because increasingly people are using the test kits for vitamin D and know and associate what their vitamin D numbers are? So I think consumers are considering that to be experiential. So where will our categories go when we actually have diagnostics that are convenient, that allow us to track our progress against biometrics and other measurement tools to make the microbiome category much more measured? Brings me to the microbiome category. Everything microbiome is becoming much better known. It's confusing. And I mean, we need simplicity in this. But a healthy microbiome is associated with so many things in the consumer mindset. If you have an improper microbiome, it is out of whack. It's going to lead you to a host of other ills. So part of our messaging, company-wise, category-wise, influencer-wise, has to be about the microbiome piece. We can talk probiotics, we can talk prebiotics, we can talk postbiotics, we can talk about symbiotics, we can talk about psychobiotics, but really it's got to be in a context of this is to create a much more healthy microbiome as measured by as experienced in these ways. Other areas that I need to comment on, and this comes to disposable income. I think that many of our categories will stand the test of disposable income. Are they essential? One of the questions that comes to me often is, okay, that beauty, skin, hair health, will that be sustainable? Our early indications, and keep in mind that our ITC data is sort of spring 2022, before a lot of those recessionary, inflationary pressures were being felt, was actually, it may have been too early in that phase, but our information so far says that even within our supplement set, the beauty, skin, hair health categories will show some resilience. I'm all about active aging, and our description of active aging really is about enabling people to do everything well and longer, so that there's no compromise as you age. So it's a big umbrella, and it's a little bit of a different tradition, different measurement sort of set, but instead of healthy aging or anti-aging, it's about that active component, which actually really opens up the context of your joints and your healthy microbiome. Because traditionally in healthy aging, would you talk about the microbiome? No, you would not. But if you got dysbiosis as you aged, that becomes a problem for digestion and immunity and gives you a lever into the active aging equation. And I think active aging is also something that ties to that younger demographic. The younger demographic has got to be approached. It's got to be approached now for higher lifetime consumer value for sure, but also it just makes sense. But their values are different. What they look for on a label is different. What they appreciate in branded ingredients is different. What they will pay for is different. Okay, watch list for me personally, practical personalization. We've been talking about functional genomics. Will we get to N equals 1? I think we're well on our way. I don't know we ever get there, but I think there will be practical personalization. And that is, I want products for which have been developed for my type. Okay, microbiome, we're probably 3.0, but maybe 4.0. This is going to be a fundamental category, and it's exciting. And we're only at the early stages. Shriman, you can go a lot of different ways on that. And I'm not talking about the psychedelics. I'm interested in the mushroom category. I think it, from a scientific validation and stratification and organization standpoint, is very early days. I think you will see new science on the beta glucans, the specific oligosaccharides associated with various mushroom species. And I think that's where that category will actually really get new functional science, functional ingredient benefits. Reconsidering demographics, get them young for lifetime value, gender options by category, and orient your values accordingly. And then holistic wellness. The microbiome is associated with holistic wellness. Immunity has transcended into holistic wellness. Watch that space. Okay, watch the watch list. Microbiome, probiotics versus prebiotics and symbiotics. Prebiotic blends. We're seeing more formulation with blends. We're seeing more combination products with pro and pre. Dosage means flexibility. Traditional prebiotics were 5 to 10 grams efficacy. Novel prebiotics, especially the precision prebiotics, have much more lower efficacy, which means you have flexibility in your formulation. And again, a reference to precision prebiotics with novel oligosaccharides, novel structures, novel linkages, all of those types of things. That's what to watch in the prebiotic space. Okay, I've mentioned many of these things. Age, gender, country are different. There's white space opportunity, including co-formulation, brand ingredient sustainability, our measurement tools and value tools. It's developing and exciting. Convert the regular consumers. Thank you very much. Just to mention just about the ITC, we've also got other reports, but in the prebiotic space, we're also about to publish on pet parents